Guys, we're down at Larry's garage. Welcome back. Larry's kind enough to have us back down. Larry, what are we working on today?
So today we're going to install the right side rear quarter panel on the 59 Ragtop. Clocker Home panels, these aren't the best quality panels out there, but there are better ones, but I'm only going to be using the bottom couple of inches here, so most of this is going to get discarded. Now this is a patch, I call this a patch panel. It's not really a restoration panel, because this was designed back in the day to repair the rust on a VW. And the VWs, as most of you know, the quarter panel would rust out, and when it rusted out, it also rusted out the face of the heater channel. So what this panel does, it is designed to repair both of these in one repair. So if you're installing new heater channels in a car, you really need to remove the lower portion of this. You need to leave a little bit of a lip right along here so you can spot weld this to the heater channel. I still see a lot of people today weld this piece over the top of the heater channel, which is not a very good idea. It creates a moisture trap, and you can have a lot of rusting issues down the road. Not to mention the fitment is not going to be all that well. So I'm going to be removing most of this. I'm going to be removing the door jamb section, because this is a very poor stamping. It doesn't even come close to lining up to any of the door jamb lines. My only problem is I do have some door jamb rot, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to repair that. Okay, so this is my door jamb rot that I have, and I have to come up with another solution because the Clocker Home panel, again, does not fit well in here. So I've got some junk bodies, and I went out there and I cut a door jamb piece out of one of the cars so I can fit here to repair the rocker panel. So I'm not going to use this entire piece. I'm going to cut it down. I'm a believer in using most of the original metal as possible. I'm going to go ahead now and start trimming this down, get it to fit. We'll weld it in, and then we'll go on to the quarter panel. So we're just going to start removing some of the rusted metal. And I'm going to come right across into this. I'll probably do my weld along here somewhere. This is easy enough area to finish off. So I'm going to leave some of that material there. Let's just, we'll cut it out at 100. So now, cut this off right about here. I always run a piece of tape just as a guide. I'll leave a little bit extra. And if you're cutting it close, you have to take in consideration too the thickness of your cutting wheel. So if you do install this, you want this surface here on the same plane as your heater channel, because this is where your door rubber seals against. Okay, and you want this on the same plane. If you weld this and this is out like this, the door rubber could absorb it, but you might be fighting a tight door closure. So it's always best to, you want that up against that, and that'll go in a little bit more once we remove some more material up here. Okay, so now I got that pretty close. Just draw a line. I'm going to slowly start trimming and test fitting to get up to this line. almost there. Right there. A bit trimming in this corner, and I may take some more off of this edge here. I think that's good. All right, so we got this basically cut and fit. So what we're gonna do now, I'm just gonna clean the paint off my edges. And we'll take it over to the bead blast cabinet, clean it up, sandblast it, get all the rust off of it. So we're going to coat the backside with a weld-proof primer. I use the zinc, and it offers very good corrosion protection. Let that sit for about 5 minutes to set up, and then we can go ahead and install the panel. I think we'll maybe start right there. Right in the corner. Okay, that looks good right here. Okay, so now we can tweak this a little bit. Do a little bit of a gap there to fill. Hopefully we might be able to get that in a little tighter. Here we go. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. All right, it's basically held in place. What we need to do now is, we want to make sure that, as you can see, we're straight. You got no gaps between the straight edge. So we know we're straight this way. Theoretically, our door should fit there well, but we are going to double check it. Shutting you in. All right, we know we're good there. Okay, so I'm gonna start with a stone first, just to hit the welds. The welds are harder material than the sheet metal. So we'll do this just on the welds to clean them up, and then we'll go to a disc to smooth everything out. Okay. Down now, and I usually like to make a solid weld, make sure that I didn't miss any spots, because if you get moisture, like that little hole there probably goes all the way through, and if we get moisture in there, it's gonna rust and it come through the paint eventually. So if you have access to the back side of the panel, what I like to do is to backlight the panel. And by doing that, can you see? Anywhere you see, like here, you see the light shining through, you want to go back and get those welded in. So what I'll do is I'll backlight all my panels, and wherever I see some light shining through, I'll just put a little circle. 2 spots right here in the corner. I'll circle that. Okay, so I got a spot right here, and right here. Circle that. Okay, so now I'll go back and we'll slot those in. Okay, let's take that down, see what we got. Check. We got one spot right there. So right there.
Yep.
And maybe right there.
Always checking the door.
Always check it. That's next. Retack this. Hit it with this. Now we're going to cut and fit the quarter panel. So I'm going to start by, we're going to strip an area of paint off here so we can do an inspection of the metal, and we'll start with the fitment process. The good news is the car hasn't been painted. Obviously, it must be the original paint. It's not thick at all, and I'm seeing possibly the original primer or the sealer, or whatever they used at the factory, and then one layer of paint. Okay, so we got our metal stripped down. So like I said, I usually like to use as much as the original body panel as possible. But where to make the cut, where to draw that line, I'll give you some ideas. So like right here, I see a little bit of a rust pit. I see a rust pit here, and the rest of it looks pretty clean. So obviously you want to be above this, so let's try to eliminate this rust. And if you try to match your panel through this, if you hit that with a welder, you're probably going to blow through and blow a big hole. The other thing I'll use is, if you can get to the back side, I'll feel the back side of the panel. And what this does is, if I can feel roughness or deep pits, I know I got to make my cut up higher. If it feels relatively smooth, without any surface imperfections, then you're probably pretty good to make your cut. So I'm probably going to make my cut above this, above that pit, probably right in through here somewhere. So let's draw a line. I think we're going to go also just right in here somewhere. This is just to give us a reference. So I'm going to cut this oversize by about 10 millimeters. And I am going to do a butt weld, but I'm going to show you how I do that butt weld. So we're going to keep a little bit of this radius, okay, so we can always trim it back afterwards. Check it. And I can see my mark is here and my cut line is there. So I may leave a little bit extra just so I don't cut myself short on this end, because I have no reference to measure. Here I still had the corner of the panel, so I can make an accurate measurement. Here I don't. I could probably go from, you could try that, I could probably go from the heater channel to here to see how level that line is. I just kind of eyeballed it, just so I don't cut the panel too short. go from the heater channel to there is 120. 118, not bad for eyeballing it. Okay, so that 2mm falls in the range, so even if this was a little lower, it would still do what I want to do. So this area here is a busy area. You got your wheelhouse intersecting with your rear cross member, which contains your end cap, intersecting with your quarter panel and your heater channel. So I already installed the cross member. You want to get these in the car first when you do your heater channels. You want to kind of work from the inside of the car out. If you do any outside work and then try to get these in after, you're gonna fight it. So I did all this repair work first, and now we're gonna work around this to install the quarter panel. So I think same thing here. I'm gonna leave a little bit of the radius. Okay, so obviously we want the the quarter panel even with the door, the bottom of the door. So we're just kind of eyeballing things right now. That looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is just draw another reference line. It's the actual panel. So that's going to overlap right there. So I guess what we can do next is we'll go ahead and remove the old panel. It can be anywhere anywhere within that space. So I like to go a little bit and then stop a little bit just to keep this does generate some heat. So we want to transfer as little as we can into the body. Okay, cool a little bit. Okay, there's our old panel. So it's a good idea sometimes to do this in two pieces. I'll have a weld here Because if you do the full wraparound, this is a complicated area to try to get lined up. So you could, if you're doing a butt weld and you get this lined up, by the time the panel wraps around to this surface, you could wind up with some gaps that you don't want. There is a method to correct that, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that on here. Now we're going to start prepping our panel for replacement. And what we're going to do is we have to put some, we got to put some holes in here for spot welds. So I'm going to remove the paint from this. Okay, now where it spots welds here, we're going to clean this up. We're also going to clean the back of this off. So now I'm going to trim this end flap a little bit. It's made a little bit too long. Same width on the top side of it. I cut it down to about maybe here. I guess I'll leave that. All right, next we're gonna punch our holes for our spot welds. I'm gonna punch 2 or 3 holes in this. Because the quarter panel is gonna be spot welded to the heater channel here. When you have 2 metals coming together like this in a spot weld, you wanna use a weld-through primer. You want to use it on the end of this tail, and I'll tell you in a minute what we're doing with this. I'm going to do it on the back side of this quarter panel, and we'll let that set up. Old-fashioned tin snip. This is my reference right here. This little bit of corner is, you feel it bottoming out. Right at that point, I should be good as far as my door alignment with my door, but we will double check that once I feel a little more comfortable with this. Okay, it's good. Perfect, right there, that's where we gotta be. The level is right on. That's nice and tight up against the heater channel. And we are good to go. So I think what I'm gonna do first is, so this tab here, guys, is part of your cross member. And one of the important reasons why you want to install the cross member first is this tab folds over the heater channel and gets spot welded. So this just ties in the strength of the cross member assembly. It just ties it all in and it's part of the strength of it. Okay, now that that's folded over, I'm not gonna weld it just yet. I wanna make sure where it intersects with the quarter panel. It's not gonna create an issue as far as fit. And actually it does. So I may put the quarter panel behind it. Or what I would do is, I'll just cut that down a little more. So it's not interfering with the flange of the quarter panel. All right, so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna tack it on. I'm feeling confident about that. So we're actually doing an overlap weld, but it's gonna end up being a butt weld. So what we need to do, we need to make 2 vertical cuts right here. And 1 here. All right, my level is good. I'm gonna do, we have an overlap right here. I'm gonna do a series of like 4 tacks. 1, 2, 4. All right, level is good, panel is in place. That's gonna go up and weld to the heater channel just fine. We can double check our door one more time. Yeah, we're good. All right, next. Let me show you how I do this. Again, there's millions of different ways to do this. You can do a lap weld. You can do put a step in the panel, weld it that way. You do a butt weld. I prefer a butt weld. The key to the butt weld is you really need to get good penetration. And I don't like a complete butt weld. I like to have a gap between the 2 panels to fill, and I'll show you why in a little bit. So what I do, I have the panel tacked in place, and right now it's an overlap. So what I do now is I'm gonna take my cutting disc and run it on the top of the outer panel through the second panel, and it's going to make for a perfect line, and the thickness of the disc will end up being my gap that I want. And that's how I do it. And if all goes well, my vertical cuts, as you know, the bottom of the car panel ended about here. So I made 2 vertical cuts up to this line, up to this line. So when I eventually cut through this panel, the scrap piece that's hanging back there will fall down inside the quarter panel, and I'll be able to reach around and pull it out so it's not in there rusting, etc. So let's start, and we're going to space these apart. We'll probably do a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit towards the middle. So I'm going to rest this right here. Cut up to the weld. Now by doing that, this panel goes in and I have a perfect mating surface. So I'm gonna go a little bit more. I'm gonna go right to the other weld, I think. Okay, there you have it. That's almost not even welded yet, and it's almost on the same plane, what we want. All right, we am gonna put just a tiny bit of pressure here to push this in, and then we're gonna do our next weld. A tiny bit, that's all I need. So what I'm doing is I'm getting on the inside now, and this panel that now is hanging free. Well, it's not, because it's still connected here and here. What I want to do is just kind of bow it out of the way. There we go. Now, sometimes you're going to fight that a little bit, so I'm going to push that in just a little bit. All right, there we have it. So this is the gap I want to fill. All right, so I'm going to ever so gently push in, and I'm going to use this as my guide to help hold and steady the welder. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna finish welding across here. I'm gonna show you how I do this. So notice when I weld, I don't go head on with the welding tip, because you're trying to bridge this gap, and it's hard to do this way. If you go in from the side like this, you're able to hit the previous weld and build out that way, and it fills the gap better, I think, because a lot of times if you're gonna weld this way on top of it, you're gonna end up creating extra material on here. And you don't really know if you're getting really good penetration that way. If you go in from the side like this, I know that this is filling the gap better. And then that's gonna result in less grinding, and less grinding means less heat. Now we'll go to our disc and clean that up a little better, and then we'll backlight it, see what we have to go back and fill in. I got it basically welded in. I still have to backlight it and go fill in some more spots and do some more grinding, get this smoother. So what I'm gonna do now is go down and weld in the bottom. I usually like to weld this first and save this for last, just for movement reasons. Once you tack this down, it's tight, it's committed. So I like to get all this welding done in case there's any movement in the panel. It's not gonna bend anything or warp anything, because this is not solidly welded yet and committed. So I'm pretty pleased with this, so we're gonna go ahead and finish up the spot welds on the cross member, tail piece that wraps around, and the lower quarter panel. All right, well, that's about it for today. Thank Jason for coming down and hanging out with me today. Panel is primarily in. I still have some more work to do. I have to weld up this cross member, quarter panel, heater channel area. I got to put a weld on here. Like I said, I'm gonna have to backlight this, fill in the areas I missed so I have a solid continuous weld. And then I have to regrind this, clean it up with the disc, step down the finer grit discs to get a smooth finish on this. So I have quite a bit more work left to do here, but it's primarily in. And that's it, we'll go from there.
And you got this piece maybe coming up for us?
Yeah, this will be our next repair. As you can see, we have a lot of rust here. And this was cut out of another car as well. This came from the previous restorers who started restoring it back in the day. They cut it out of another car. So this is gonna go in right here. I'm gonna kind of take care of all this in one shot, and then I guess in the next video we'll show you how I'm gonna do this. Wait, speechless?
I am. So thank you guys for dropping in. Larry's kind enough to have us out again. And I am looking forward to continuing on watching Larry restore this 59 Ragtop. So you guys take care. We'll see you soon.